Hi, I'm your host, Praveen Ravisankar, and this is the Data Standard audio experience. We have a very exciting guest today. On our podcast, we have Walt Gorman, who's currently the president and integrator of Excel.net. Today, we're speaking about the use of data in growing companies from the perspective of a business owner within the industry. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to have the discussion.
Of course. Thanks for coming on to the show today. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
As you said, I'm Walt Gorman. I'm president of Excel.net, president integrator, IT company that's focused on small to medium-sized business in the Chicago market today.
Sweet. Yeah. And we're excited to get right into it. So as someone with a diverse background and with a background within sales, I was wondering what led you to work in data science or with data, and what makes this field so captivating to you?
Well, when I got in sales, one of the things I realized is, people are selling commodity, people are selling on price. And I always took the approach that when I was selling network or any kind of network infrastructure, that I was focused on what's the benefit of it. And the benefit of it is the quality of the information that you have. So that got me into when I started selling, then all of a sudden I was finding out, it's difficult to install if you don't understand the background and how everything works. So I slowly over time became a problem solver and kind of morphed my way over to the operational side so that I can not only identify a problem, but help solve a problem and be able to express that to an end user. Here's the issue and here's the benefit of it.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Kind of along those lines, when you started working with these other people and like as a president right now, when you're working with these small businesses, what are the biggest challenges and hurdles that you face when you're trying to integrate these solutions?
Small to medium-sized business, which is our target, because we feel it's an extremely underserved market. Their perception is I just need to sell more and try to manage the information on the backside. And what they find out is that back office information gets behind them so much they can't grow, they can't get out of their own way. One of the questions we like to ask somebody is, and this goes back to an old question we used to ask, I'm dating myself back to the 80s, when you go to a business owner, what wakes you up at 3 o'clock in the morning? When you wake up at 3 o'clock, what do you think about? And every business owner you talk to has an issue. He's got a payroll issue, he's got an inventory issue, he's got something that keeps him from being successful, that takes his time away. Those are the issues that we try to address. It's the managing that information, managing that network, and managing the technology and the cost of it.
No, that makes sense. And kind of along those lines, when you are like, for example, if a small business is coming up, what are some practices that they should use to keep their data clean and useful?
Well, you have to understand what's the criteria. We use, internally, we use what's called the EOS system on how we operate, the entrepreneurial operating system, and we use a scorecard for ourselves. So should be certain metrics that you can measure daily to make sure you're on track. It should be simple, but we use, like, for each department, we use 3 metrics that we can say these are indicators of, it's the current, it's the past, the current, and the future, so that we can say when something's off track, we'll know, like if it's, the amount of trouble tickets we're working on, if it's getting out of hands, okay, we have a problem, we have to go back and fix that. So a business owner wants to do everything. He needs to identify what is the key issues I have to focus on every day to be successful in my business, whether I'm manufacturing widgets or I'm building cars or whatever I'm building. What's the key indicators based on, your past, your present, and your future?
No, that makes sense. I feel like a lot of businesses have trouble, keeping up with their data since they're growing so fast, right? When they try to store this information, they sometimes do it wrong. So what are the major misconceptions that you faced when you see small businesses having to integrate technology or data within their businesses? Is it like problems within their data pipeline, or is it just the fact that like their data is outdated?
Well, there's a couple of issues. One is, they'll have a single source of failure. So to give you an example, everybody wants to store everything in the cloud, which is great, but then they don't have a backup. Or what do you do when you lose power? When your ISP goes down? So, one of the exercises I've always tried to conduct over the years, the what ifs. What if this happens? What do you do? Losing information for 15 minutes has a negative effect on a company. And most business owners will tell you, if I'm down for 15 minutes, I know what that is. So what they don't do is they just don't have options. They don't have themselves protected. I've used the cloud, I've built the cloud, I've built data centers, I operate in data centers. And, you do have backups in different places, but small businesses don't go to the second, third degree that you really need to do. There's a benefit to keeping some information local. There's a benefit to putting it in the cloud. There's a benefit to having a backup somewhere. And then having different paths that you can get out. We've always done disaster recovery exercises where all of a sudden you go something simple, unplug an Ethernet connection. What do you do? Turn off the power, turn off the wireless connection in the office. most people don't have a backup. I just worked on something today with trying to explain to somebody that, you can have a fiber connection, you can have a coax connection, but, if they have a single path they cross, you have a failure. So you need a wireless backup. But now if you have a wireless backup, you're also going to need battery backup.
Okay, yeah. So it seems like there's a lot of steps and like a lot of fail safes that like businesses need. Yeah, no, it makes sense. Like I feel like a lot of businesses don't really plan ahead like that, and they're just like focused on growing. When it comes to growing, like what are some important trends that you see with data in this industry, and what like advice do you have for people that are coming to work like within?
Well, I mean, understand the importance of it. There's a presentation I've given over the years talking about the economy and IT and information. So if you go back and look at the history of the United States, our economy has always grown based on technology.
Mhm.
If you go all the way back, if and it's not exaggerating too much, but if you go back to the integration of the railroad, the telegraph, all those things made the economy grow. Then you get into the automobiles, the trucking industry. They made the industry grow. Then you get into the Depression when the market collapsed, because things were overinflated. Then we got into World War II. In World War II, we started using technology for production. Now we had, wage freezes and price freezes during that time. But once that was released after the war, then all of a sudden, everything we learned during the war on production, technology, and everything else, we applied to private industry. We created more jobs. We created more goods. The economy grew. You develop plastics. You develop better airlines, you develop jet planes, and all those things that make the economy grow. So if you want to make the economy grow, invest in your IT infrastructure, intelligence and information, and managing your data. That'll help your business grow, and that helps the economy grow.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's kind of cool to see like it's been the same all throughout history. So for like someone like myself who's a student that's coming into work within like IT or within consulting with data, what's the biggest piece of advice you could give somebody like me?
Make sure you've got the proper certifications, and that you're diverse in your disciplines, and that you not only understand the technical side of it, but you have to understand the business side of it. If I do this, what's the benefit to the end user? The advancement of artificial intelligence coming out right now. There's a couple companies I've worked with that have some technology that's, I'll give you an example. Your car today, if you have a new car, actually has the ability that it could self-report that you're violating the law and speeding and running red lights or anything else. It could automatically call the local police department. That technology's there. So think of somebody, and I'll age myself again in my age group, have a new car. It's all computer. I turned the car on. I got a screen there. And if all of a sudden that screen was able to come on and say, hello, Mr. Gorman, what do you need? I tell it. And if I want to learn something, that it's interactive, not that it's just going to read me a menu as a bot, but it's going to, like if I'm asking a question, it's actually going to be more interactive. I know you've got your, maps and things like that. But when you're trying to learn how the intricacies of a new car works, somebody can read you a menu, or you can read a book, but it's not getting it. But to have somebody actually interact with you, that's the way to learn. But you could do that today. That technology is there today. Think of what the improvement of those things are. So knowing what that impact is of that technology, that's if you understand the technology and you understand the impact, and you can present that, you've got a winning solution there for me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've heard, at least from the people that I've been talking to, like no matter how good of like a data scientist, data analyst that you are, it's about like how you present your information and how you're able to like use like your resources to actually like show other people like what your data means or what your work means is like the most important thing. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, data is key. It always has been. The information, managing it, knowing it, securing it has always been key. So those are the keys to success in my book. And it's worked well for me all the way back from the days when we were doing dial-up.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Can't even imagine. I kind of want to flip this on you, right? As a business owner yourself, I want to know the ways that you manage your data and what are like the best practices that you keep to make sure that your business is running at its like best.
Well, I've only been in this role, a couple months, so I'm still new in this one. I'll go back to when I was president of Butler American Telecom. I was there for 9 years. It's knowing my cost, knowing my true costs, knowing where my risks were, knowing how to manage those, knowing what's an acceptable risk, making sure, administratively, you've got, all your I's dotted, T's crossed, you're legally covered, your taxes are covered. There's a lot of things you've got to manage. So like in my new role, it's president/integrator. Integrator is I'm bringing all the parts together so that the business owner can go do what he wants. He wants to be able to sell more. So I'm bringing all those other functions together saying, what's the cost to acquire a customer? What's the cost to keep a customer? How can we take this structure and make it more efficient and identifying what we think are weak spots? So here again, it all goes back to managing the information. So, working with people as to, various points that we use on the scorecard as to what we feel are critical metrics. As an integrator, those are the things that I've got to focus on every day and making sure I've got everything documented and I make sure I hold people accountable. Those are things that you've got to do.
Yeah. And kind of based off of that, I was kind of wondering what tools that you use to manage your data. A lot of people coming into industry are always like scared of like, oh, if I'm going to data science, I need to know how to like make models. I need to know how to code. I need to know how to do all this other stuff, right? But oftentimes it's a lot more simple than that. As a business owner yourself and with the companies that you've worked with, what are ways that you've seen other companies kind of use different tools to keep their data clean? And does it really need to be as complicated as like coding an entire script and keeping that database clean?
Yeah, the first thing's got to go network security right now. That is the biggest issue we're seeing today. There are a number of companies out there, smaller companies that get hacked every day. If you don't, you can have the best network infrastructure, the best data backup and everything else. But if your network's not secure, it's not going to work for you. So we always focus on the security and something as simple as, the phishing exercises and, how people get it. So you try to catch all those things on the front side. So it's knowing how to protect it. And then so many different businesses have a different platform that they use. It's kind of hard to say this is the best one. Mm-hmm. That's why you have to get the right certifications in the right part of the industry that's going to give you the most flexibility. And the other thing is never stop learning, because what you learn today is going to be out of place in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is to continue in education and find if you're getting into the industry, like we do with our employees, is we have different certifications that we support them to go get. Go find somebody that will support you to keep you on that cutting edge, because what so much has changed in the last decade, I cannot imagine what it's going to be like in the next decade as to what those changes are, because the technology is there today and it's just developing that. So you've got to continue to educate yourself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I want to thank you for everything. And we at the Data Standard are building a community of data enthusiasts and data thought leaders. Everyone is open for collaboration and to connect with each other. What can our community do for you?
Help me stay informed on trends. Things that we see coming down the pipe. As I said, I've spent some time working with a company in artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. That to me is the leading edge. And there's only a couple of people that really own some of the platforms there. And I think those things, as I'm always trying to learn, I'm not the young kid on the block anymore, but I always think I'm very forward thinking. So I'm always looking for new, innovative ways, new technology, new ideas to understand where the market's going. Because what the market's doing today is not going to be the same tomorrow.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And we hope our community can do that for you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for being on the show today. We really, really appreciate your time. Where can our community find you online if they want to reach out to you?
You can reach me. I have a Yahoo email address, Gorman Consulting LLC @yahoo.com. That's it's kind of where some of the people who I've used to work with, we share ideas. So I share it through that email address so I can keep everything separate from work and, continue to grow.
Great. And for more information on the Data Standard, you can find us at www.datastandard.io. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.